Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Mariana, and today I'm sharing with you all the books that I read in April. I would say we started this month pretty nicely. The first book that I read in April was Within Obsession and Lies by Stacey Jones and Harper Wilde. The first one in the Court of Guild and Shadows series. And I would give the book maybe 3.5 out of 5. It is a fantasy polyamorous reverse harem romance that follows our protagonist Erwin, a 26-year-old female who finds herself pretty much isolated from the entire world. People are inexplicably drawn to her, and when I say that, I mean people are obsessed with her whenever she is around, and it has actually become dangerous to her, and she has gone through a lot of physical and mental trauma because of it. So at the beginning of the book, she is completely isolated from the world, living in her little house in the middle of nowhere, when out of the blue she feels the need to go into the city. That's when she meets the three love interests that we have in this book: Viper, Wraith, and Fear, who are also fays. And throughout the book, she develops her relationships with them, and it's pretty much just a romance book, but with a little bit of action in between. And maybe I enjoyed it because I had never read any kind of fantasy. Although I'm a big fantasy reader, I don't really read fantasy romance that often because, if I'm being honest, oftentimes I find romance books very problematic or cringy. So this one was pretty much a first, and yeah, overall I enjoyed this book quite a lot. Now, another book that I read this month was the sequel to this book, called Through Illusions and Deceit. Actually, I have already made a review. I'm going to post it somewhere in here, and let me tell you, I despised the second one honestly, because as I said in my review, the first book ends in my opinion, pretty big plot twist. It's quite a big deal, yet it means absolutely nothing for the second book. It could have never been introduced into the story, and it would not make any difference. The second book felt just like an excuse to write smut, and maybe it was my mistake to expect something else. And I think I would give that one a 1.5, and I think I'm being generous. The third book that I read this month was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and I read it right after I read It Ends With Us, and I think I enjoyed that one a lot more than this book. That we often find in romance books where we all know that they're gonna end up together at the end. Yet I actually really enjoy the main character's dynamic in this book. Yes, it is that typical girl meets someone's best friend, and the guy can't fall in love with her because, in this case, the protagonist's brother is very protective, and he feels like he is going to offend the brother or let him down, so they have this secret relationship. Yet it felt quite charming. It didn't feel like the generic romance book. Yes, I did not enjoy it as much as I enjoyed It Ends With Us, but I feel like it's a completely different book, and I think that maybe I am going to read more from Colleen Hoover. I don't know. These are my first two books, and I think that we are off to a great start. The next book that I read in April was The Last House Guest by Miranda. It's a mystery thriller. And although it was a bit slow and I felt like it dragged at times, I loved it. I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. So in this book, we follow Avery Greer, our protagonist, who is still reeling from the death of her best friend. Basically, she feels like something's still not adding up, even a year after her death. And at the present time, she makes some discoveries that make her think that something is not right with the investigation, that her death was actually a murder. I like the fact that we have little time jumps between the night of her death and the present, because in my opinion, it makes us feel like Avery is not a reliable narrator. Sometimes she makes certain comments, or some people make certain comments that make you feel like she comes off a little bit suspicious. I feel like the writing was pretty nice. The way the author described the little town made you, immerse yourself a lot in the story. Yes, it could have been a little bit better paced, but overall, a very solid mystery. And the last book that I read this month was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. And sadly, I have to say, I am a little bit disappointed. When I read the guest list, I was completely in love with that book. I felt like the atmosphere was exquisite. The characters were so interesting. The mystery was enthralling. The story just kept me wanting more and more and more. And by the end of the book, I was in awe of her writing. I did not see the twist coming at the end. And that did not happen with this book. This book felt like it dragged on and on and on and on. And the concept was, in my opinion, so great. When I heard that she was coming out with this book and I read the summary, I felt like it had so much potential. It reminded me a lot of a book that I read last year called Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. And I was expecting that, that feeling of stress, of anguish while I was reading it, and it never came. The characters felt very flat to me. The story felt like it dragged on. I felt like there was no mystery. There was not even a reason for this book. Yes, the brother disappeared. So what? It didn't feel like the stakes just did not feel big enough. I have no idea what happened with this book. I hope that she can redeem herself because I really, really enjoyed the guest list. And, I hope that the next book is just as great as that one. I was hoping to read a little bit more this month, but I feel like I had a nice mix in there. Some were great. Some were terrible. Some were in between. Have you read any of the books that I read this month? What did you think about them? Leave that in the comments below. That is all that I have for today. Have you read any of the books that I read this month? What did you think about them? Leave that in the comments below, please. Also, please, I would really appreciate it if you left a like and you subscribed if you haven't. And yeah, that's all for today. I hope you're having a great one. And I'll see you next time. Bye.